The car in microgravity looks like this. When I give gas, the tires start spinning and the engine starts spinning, and the car starts rotating. If you have seen the motocross videos where they almost endo and they give a panic rev would do this. It will come from an endoing position, panic revving would give it back up to level, and the other way around. You can hit the brakes and the motocross bike would dive. Anyway, I wanted to check that my equations are correct and that my angular momentum is preserved. And the angular momentum, the preservation of angular momentum, is how all this works. So you can see that when I give gas, the wheels start spinning, and the angular momentum of the wheels is exactly cancelled by the angular momentum of the chassis. So that's why when I give gas and the car starts rotating, when I hit the brakes and the tires stop spinning, the angular momentum is still zero. So the angular momentum was zero all along. The angular momentum is zero now. The angular momentum is zero now. The total angular momentum of the car is zero now and now. The engine has angular momentum and the tires have angular momentum, but in total the sum of the angular momentums are zero. That's what I wanted to check, that I can spin the car and hit the brakes and the car will stop rotating and still have zero angular momentum. So that works. And also the gyroscopic effect of the tires and the flywheel, the engine flywheel, are simulated. So now when it tumbles correctly, and if I turn, you see that the rotation changes because of the gyroscopic effect of the wheels spinning. And if you have seen I hit the ground there with spinning tires, I floated away. Because I'm in microgravity, so I'm still floating downwards slowly. Anyway, no. Why isn't this working? Oh, right, so now I'm floating downwards. Anyway, right, so now my angular momentum is not zero anymore. So when I stop the tires, I am still not at zero angular momentum because the tires hit the ground accidentally there. And when they hit the ground, I added angular momentum to the car, and that's why you can't see the ground here, but it's still ground, so you can see the car hitting the ground, even though I'm not in the actually rendered ground. Right, so I'm giving it downward force artificially with a button on my keyboard. I'm not sure if this was good or bad for the video, but anyway. I could cancel out the angular momentum maybe by slightly pushing it towards the ground softly. And hitting the brakes. So now it's at zero, almost zero angular momentum. And when I lift it up again, oops, it's still. And you can also see the inertia of the tires. I am lifting on the chassis now, so when I'm pushing down, the tires are, the suspension is compressing because, anyway. I found the angular momentum to be preserved and my equations to be correct. You can also see that when I give gas, there is a tilt backward and forward, but also a slight roll to it. That is because I'm also simulating the inertia of the engine flywheel and the gyroscopic effects of the engine flywheel. So if you mount the engine cross-axis or along the axis, the car will behave differently. Right. And if I hit the brakes and give gas, you can see that the soft chassis is flexing because it's soft and I am simulating chassis flex. The thing to notice here is, even though you can't see the difference, but there is a difference between double A arms and solid axle twisting. When you see cars on the track, the big ones, the kind of Baja buggy on the light jolt, they're not good. It is because the torque of the engine goes to the prop shaft, and that is transferred to the chassis. And in this configuration where we have AAA arms and the differentials are fixed to the chassis, the torque goes directly to the chassis and bend the chassis. So if you have a stiff chassis, then the torque from the engine will not cause differential tire loads. But if you have a fixed axis, the torque would go to the suspension, and it would look like the car twists. But there's a difference in the twist when you have a fixed axis and when you have AAA arms. So I am simulating that correctly, and this is AAA arms, so the flex goes to the chassis and not directly to the axis. And this would also, you can see that when I turn the tires, the inertia of the tires slightly twists the rotates the chassis. But since this is forward steering now, the effect is almost cancelled out. It's just that the front tires are turned more when I steer, so you can hardly see it.